Jim over here standing alongside Canadian journalist James Lynch. You'll know him from Flow Combat, for Fightful, the likes of Fan-Sided MMA. We're here ahead of UFC 223. We'll go down in about 8 hours at the Barclays Center here in Brooklyn, New York. James, it's been a crazy fight week. I don't quite know where to start, but I mean, let's start with the main event that we have right now. Khabib Nurmagomedov taking on Iaquinta in the main event now. I mean, like, James, talk me through how we got here for these people here. Like, 5 different opponents offered to Khabib this week, and now we have Al.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously first it was Tony Ferguson, and then Max Holloway steps up, and there were concerns about his weight, and just with the fact that Max had to come all the way from Hawaii, he had the long plane ride, that's potential time he could be cutting weight that he couldn't get. And then we fast forward to yesterday where Max is deemed unfit to compete against Khabib, and then we start hearing about potential replacements. Anthony Pettis was the big one for a while. It seemed like that was going to be there, and as far as a potential replacement, being a former champion, I think that's sort of how they sold it. I think from a lot of people's perspectives, they're kind of miffed at the Pettis possibility, just with the fact he was coming off a bit of a losing streak. So does he deserve this opportunity? Whatever. I know he's a former champion. And then we heard Paul Felder, and then there was this whole thing we heard about how he's not ranked and all this. The rankings are a whole other topic for discussion. But eventually we find out Iaquinta gets the fight, and what an interesting set of circumstances with the fact that Al's had issues with the UFC. He's been very vocal about fighter pay. He's been very inactive because of the fact that he's been focusing on his business with real estate, and also just with the fact that like I said, he's been sort of unhappy with things. So it's kind of like you've got this sort of anti-company man getting this huge opportunity who could potentially spoil not only the plans of the UFC having Khabib as their champ, but also a potential fight between Khabib and Conor McGregor. So a lot at stake here tonight, but I'm excited about this.
Yeah, you said there's a lot at stake here tonight. We know Khabib can win the belt.
Yeah.
And now we had that very confusing situation. Like, what did you make of that yesterday? We were all asking Dana, like, okay, so if Al gets his hand raised, he wins, is he the champion? You're going to put a belt around his waist. Yeah. First, he committed to being like, kind of screw the New York State Athletic Commission, like, he's going to be our champion. But then he kind of backtracked on it 5 minutes later. I'm confused. And I guess in the craziness, I mean, what can you say? Like, would you consider Al Iaquinta the lightweight champion?
If he won, I think in some ways you'd have to, because really it was only 0.2 off. New York's kind of weird about their weigh-in rules. They had that issue a couple months ago with Heather Hardy where they told her she couldn't weigh in. I mean, there's definitely some really weird sort of rules that they have here in New York, but I would think if Al wins, I mean, you'd have to consider him the champion. I don't think it's not like this guy came in at 170. He was 0.2 off. So I think that I think you have to consider him the champion if he defeats him, and I think the UFC said that just as sort of assurance that Al's going to actually have as much motivation as possible heading into this fight, because if it's not for the title, what does Al really have to gain other than having his first loss?
I mean, a lot of money. I would hope so anyway. I hope a lot of money. I just think, and I guess the counter argument to that is, like, you have to set precedent with these athletic commissions, right? Why are they there? If we're not going to abide by their rules and go by the way that they want us to kind of, like, I guess, manage the sport and the rule set, then why are they here if we're just going to say Al Iaquinta's champion? That's the counter argument. Yeah. Though I do kind of agree with you. Like, Al did weigh in 55.2, and then another fighter came in later, and I think without his, we found out that his garments are roughly around 0.2 anyway. So he was roughly 155. He was championship weight. So I think we can deal with. I mean, how do you think this fight goes tonight? It's a weird one stylistically.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Khabib, you've seen the betting lines already. He's a sizable favorite heading into this one with good reason. I mean, he has looked dominant, especially in his last fight. I think that really sort of silenced any critics, because you've heard the arguments of, he hasn't fought the toughest competition, this and that. He had a few fights that were short notice, like the Daryl Borcher one and things like that. So, but no, I think Khabib's going to dominate. I mean, here's the interesting thing: if Al is somehow able to stuff those takedowns, which big if.
What he able to do though, he's a very accomplished wrestler. He has that in his back pocket.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see, if he can keep it standing. I mean, this definitely becomes an interesting fight, but if Khabib is able to get this to the ground and, just maul his opponents like we've seen him do in the past, it could be a very bad night for Al Iaquinta, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we will see. One thing I will say is that I think, obviously, Khabib does have the advantage in the wrestling department. But if Al can keep it on the feet, I think he might edge. Like, he's certainly going to edge Khabib there. From the evidence we've been presented before, Al's actually got some. He's pretty powerful.
Well, and let's also think about the mental aspect of this fight. Okay, you got Al Iaquinta, who
nothing to lose.
He hasn't, exactly, and there's something freeing about that. We've seen, fighters get short notice opportunities and thrive. Alex Hernandez makes his UFC debut in less than a week's notice and knocks out Beneil Dariush. And when you have someone that has that mentality where they got nothing to lose, he becomes a dangerous opponent. And we have to talk about the fact that Khabib was part of this whole issue this week with Artem Lobov and then obviously Conor McGregor and his group, attacking the bus. I mean, mentally, where is his head at if he's worried about all these other things? I think that also may play a role in this fight too. We'll see.
We will get to that.
Yeah.
But let's go for the co-main event first.
Yeah.
We'll just wrap that up. Yeah, Namajunas defending a UFC strawweight title for the first time against the former champion Jedrzejczyk. We're rolling this one back straight away from last November. What are your thoughts on this? And talk to me about what you've seen this week. I guess during the fight week from both Rose and Joanna.
Well, I'll start with the second part of that question. I talked to both of them this week. Both seem very composed. Joanna, obviously very fired up with the fact that she's, been able to do this sort of on her own weight cut. I mean, that was the big issue in the first fight, according to her, was the bad weight cut, and still some bad blood there with perfecting athletes. So I don't know if that'll play a little bit of a role, but Joanna's really got to go out there and show that that wasn't a fluke, that was just sorry, she has to show that it was a fluke, I should say, and show that she was this dominant champion, as far as what she did prior to the Rose fight. And Rose just seems super cool and collective. I mean, I think I asked her, does it bother her at all that Joanna's sort of talking a lot about the weight cut stuff and not maybe giving her the credit for getting the win? And she said she doesn't care about it. I think Rose, just as dangerous in this fight. I'm curious to see if it's I'm sure I don't think we'll see a first round knockout in this fight tonight. But I am curious to see if maybe this is just the kryptonite, because we've seen certain stylistic matchups not favor certain fighters. One that comes to mind is Chuck Liddell and Quinton Jackson. I mean, Quinton Jackson just was Chuck Liddell's kryptonite for whatever reason. Could Rose be that for Joanna? We'll find out tonight, but it's certainly very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, that tonight is the truth night, right? There's no excuses anymore. There's absolutely nothing. Like, both tell me that they've had great preparations. There's nothing kind of sitting there in the back locker in your mind. But people come to me and they're like, how do you pick this fight? Who's going to win? And I'm like, there are more unknowns than there are knowns. The only knowns that we have is that Rose knocked her out in one round, which it's a short fight to quick fight. And as a lot of, I guess, the veteran fighters have said this week, anyone can win a short fight. Yeah. So I'm still going to ask you though, how does it finish?
I think Rose gets a late finish in this fight. As dominant as Joanna was, I also think that she has been in a few wars, and I think that stuff sort of plays a role. And Rose is so young, and I think that we're only going to see her get better. Typically in a situation like this, I know Rose right now, I believe, is still the betting underdog. Sometimes you got to go with the younger fighter and the fighter that I think could have an edge heading into this one. She's already got the win. She's already got the confidence there. I mean, all the pressure's on Joanna. She has to prove that the last couple fights weren't just easier opponents or whatever. Rose really doesn't have much to lose. She's already lost. She lost to Carla. A couple years ago. She lost to Carolina. So there is a lot of at stake here. But no, I think Rose will pull this off. But again, it would not surprise me if Joanna pulls this one out as well, because it is that close of a fight.
I mean, let me say this, like, a lot of the narrative, I guess, has been focused around the mindset of Joanna. But we know that Rose in the past has had flaky moments. She's not turned up to fights and lost them. So, I'm not so sure about this one tonight. I feel I'm actually siding on the Polish side. I'm going with my European brethren. I'm actually going for Joanna Jedrzejczyk decision victory. But intriguing fight. I personally think it's one of the best fights on the card. But I mean, there are a lot of other fights on the card, but there are unfortunately not some other fights on the card. We've had a few pullouts or fights called off over the last few days. Michael Chiesa being one. Anthony Pettis won't fight tonight. I mean, what do you make of that? Like, you've got to feel unfortunate for these guys. Paul Felder, another one.
Yeah, I've never seen so many fighters removed from a card on a UFC card. I mean, we've seen stuff on the regional scene where fighters don't get they
run out of hot water at the hotel.
Exactly, things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. You never like to see fights pulled from the card, especially something that was external that had nothing to do with any of the fighters. With obviously which we'll get to. But I still think it's a good card. There's a lot of good matchups. I think if anything, it gives the opportunity for other fighters to really step up and really take center stage. Something that comes to mind is the featherweight matchup that just got bumped to the pay-per-view, which is Kyle and Zabit. Zabit's supposed to be the future. We'll see if he can do that tonight. But Kyle, I mean, he has a great opportunity to pull off an upset of one of the hottest featherweight prospects in the division.
I remember Rotterdam. There was a lot of journalists in the back who actually hadn't seen Zabit, didn't know much about him. I cover ACB, so I'd seen him a lot before. But I watched this guy and we were blown away. I mean, I'm kind of expecting that sort of same thing to happen tonight. Yeah, let's hope so. And good luck to Karl Bochniak as well. He's been thrown a very hard fight here, but a win tonight could do a lot for him. So, another fight I really want to talk about is Police Harry Carter and Kowalkiewicz. I think that's another great fight. What do you kind of make of this one? It's weird stylistically. Like, Police obviously has strength, power, wrestling. Carolina kind of a bit more agility, speed, and obviously superior stand-up.
Yeah, I actually think, I mean, just looking at the betting odds, I know this is a fairly even fight. I think Carolina takes this. You know, I think Felice, while she is on the winning streak, I haven't been overly impressed. You know, she came off the win over Courtney Casey, very close fight. There's fights that Felice is winning that she probably should win, but Carolina, I mean, she's fighting the toughest of the toughest. She does have that win over Rose, like I mentioned. I think this is going to be a really good fight for Carolina. I mean, I could see her going out there and getting a finish, and this will set up, of course, if Rose wins, you know, the rematch. We'll see. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but I like Carolina in this fight. I think she's got a lot more to bring to the table than Felice does. I could be wrong, but I see Carolina taking this one.
Yeah, I mean, we're close enough to the event so it's now like I think a Carolina submission bet would be a wise one. If there's going to be a finish, and I'm sure the line for over 2.5 rounds is not looking pretty healthy right now, but if you're going to go for anything, you're going to go for a finish. I reckon a Kowalkiewicz submission would be good. Anything else on this card that kind of like tickles your interest?
Yes, the featherweight fight between Calvin Kattar and Renato Moicano. We're looking at two of the best prospects in the featherweight division. We talked about Zabit, but these two guys have already sort of established themselves. And I know Moicano's coming off the loss to Brian Ortega, but he is, you know, got that split decision win over Jeremy Stephens, and we've seen what type of role Jeremy's been on as of late. Calvin Kattar sort of came out of nowhere, signed by the UFC last year, gets the upset win over Andre Fili in his debut, and he's just carried that momentum from fight to fight, and he's coming off a huge win over Shane Burgos, who was previously undefeated fighter, and he finished Shane late in the fight. So I'm excited. I think the winner of this fight is going to get a top flight opponent after this, and we could be seeing sort of the future of the featherweight division here tonight in that matchup.
I mean, we said we're going to talk about it. I don't think we should run over what happened, because I think if you don't know what happened, you've been living under a rock. Conor McGregor turned up in New York this week, involved in an incident, let's say, a fracas involving people that were on a bus leaving the UFC 223 media day. James, I just want to ask you this question now. We've seen kind of the immediate aftermath kind of play out. Where does Conor McGregor go from here?
I don't know. I need to find a lawyer to get those answers. I mean, it's really interesting to see here. The UFC, you know, obviously very pissed off, but here's the thing that I found kind of interesting. Unembedded, I mean, they showed all the footage. I think that they're using this to promote the fight at some point. I mean, I think it's inevitable that they're going to try and do Khabib and Conor. Now, I don't know if Conor wants that fight. I mean, who knows what's sort of going through his head. But I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that have to get taken care of. But the fact that the UFC, you know, went out there and didn't run away from this thing makes me think that they do want to bring him, despite what Dana says, despite what Reed Harris is tweeting out and saying this guy, you know, all this stuff. I think we will see. You know, I saw people saying Conor McGregor's going to get cut. No way. Money over anything is always going to triumph, and Conor McGregor will do that.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to someone about this morning. He raised a very, very good point in terms of if Dana does, like the person who can actually sue Conor for the most is Dana White. You add up how many pay-per-view buys they lost tonight. It's a lot of money, and they can make that case. They can then talk about, you know, if the UFC brand is worth $4 billion, how much damage have they done to the UFC brand? It's all over every single worldwide news outlet. The damage to the brand is going to be astronomical. The last thing Dana White's going to do is sack Conor McGregor.
Right.
He's now almost, Conor's done. He's just an employee again. He doesn't hold the power that he used to. Dana White has the power, and there's no way they're going to cut him. They're going to extract as much money out of him as possible, and I think that's how this is going to play out.